funds go to provide camping, recreational, and social activities for persons with a disability and help support other local organizations. Haggie is community-based, and 100% of the funds raised through Haggie TV Bingo stays in Thunder Bay and Northwestern Ontario.
Officials with Norwest Community Health Centers have issued a substance warning for street drug users in Thunder Bay. Norwest has special equipment. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Mitchell Ringos. Officials with Norwest Community Health Centers have issued a substance warning for street drug users in Thunder Bay. Norwest has special equipment at its Safe Supply program that can analyze drug samples to see what they truly contain. Norwest Director of Health Services Jennifer Lawrence says what they found last month was startling, especially with samples of what users thought was cocaine.
We definitely saw a very concerning trend in January where the majority of the cocaine samples checked didn't contain any cocaine at all. In fact, over 10% of those samples contained fentanyl or fentanyl only, and 55% of what was thought to be cocaine that was checked that didn't contain any cocaine. Many of those samples had fentanyl in them.
The substance warning was issued this week on Norwest social media pages. Only 15% of all drugs tested and just 11% of supposed cocaine samples were found to be the actual drug people thought they were buying. Lawrence says this is especially concerning for recreational cocaine users who wouldn't normally have naloxone on hand to prevent an overdose because naloxone only works with opioids. She's recommending people start carrying naloxone and also use the Lifeguard app when they ingest any type of street drugs.
So I think it's really important to remember that the drug supply is very toxic and very variable, that you might not be getting what you think you've purchased, and that in fact you may need to be prepared to respond to an opioid overdose, even if you don't think you've purchased an opioid. So making sure that you're not using alone, that you've got naloxone, you know what to do with naloxone, and that so do the people that you're with. And if someone is using alone, to really use that Lifeguard app and set the timer so that some EMS can respond if they do overdose.
As the war in Ukraine enters its second year, President Volodymyr Zelensky says he's open to a peace plan proposed by China, but only if Russian troops pull out of all occupied Ukrainian territories. Kevin Gallagher has more.
Ukrainian forces fire Soviet-era rockets at the Russian front line near Kharkiv. Every advance is brutal and slow, as fighters hope superior Western weapons arrive soon. Positions change every day, this Ukrainian soldier says, but I have no worries. I believe in our victory to the last. Some German-made Leopard tanks have arrived from Poland. Canada recently doubled its commitment and will send 8 tanks.
We need to continue doing whatever is necessary to help Ukraine fight and win this war. They are fighting for their democracy, but they're also fighting for our democracy.
Russia's Wagner mercenary group claims to have captured a village just north of Bakhmut, a heavily damaged Ukrainian stronghold in the east. Today, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky told German leaders in a video address, if NATO continues to supply his forces, Ukraine can put an end to Russian aggression this year. Though protesters in Berlin demanded their government stop sending weapons to Ukraine in an effort to encourage peace talks. Even China has also proposed a peace process, despite reports it may send lethal aid to Russia.
Es gibt Dinge, die bemerkenswert richtig sind.
Today, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz criticized Beijing's plan for not insisting Russian forces withdraw from Ukrainian territory. China and Russia also forced the G20 finance ministers to end their meeting in India without a consensus today, as the two countries refused to call the conflict in Ukraine a war. Kevin Gallagher, CTV News, Ottawa.
Provincial police seized more than 2 million contraband cigarettes after stopping a vehicle west of the city earlier this week. Police said officers at the Chappaqua detachment stopped a U-Haul van on Highway 17 around 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, which led to a commercial vehicle inspection. Police found the haul of cigarettes, which had an estimated street value of about $875,000. A 24-year-old from Scarborough faces charges of trafficking contraband, tobacco, and constructing an officer, along with 2 charges under the Tobacco Tax Act and several Highway Traffic Act offenses. Major fire at a seniors residence in Sioux Lookout earlier this month has highlighted problems in the long-term care system, according to local officials. Although the blaze was limited to one wing of the KDSB facility, nearly a third of the building's 37 residential units were destroyed. Lee Noonan has more.
Although the fire decimated 11 units at Patricia Plaza, everyone was safely evacuated, and some residents have even been able to move back into undamaged units towards the front of the building. Meanwhile, some are still waiting, and others have been placed in long-term care or are waiting in the hospital.
The lack of long-term care beds or access to long-term care, the lack of access to extended care beds in our communities also meant that we had seniors and elders in Patricia Plaza who really should be in long-term care.
Some of them maybe have been ready to go to long-term care if it were available, or some other care facility. And there's such a dearth of such services and facilities in Sioux Lookout. We need them desperately.
With Sioux Lookout's role as a service hub, Mayor Lawrence says the shortage of long-term beds affects the entire region.
We have 1/10 the provincial average of long-term care beds. We have 2/3 of a bed per 1,000 population versus a provincial average of 6 2/3 beds per 1,000 population. We absolutely need long-term care, which would have an impact not only on housing, but on our hospital, which is now our acute care bed facility is 50% alternative level care, which is people who need to go into long-term care. So that backup happens in the hallways of the hospitals and in people's homes and in people living in unsuitable conditions or living vulnerably alone in an apartment as a senior.
Wall says the incident has highlighted the need for more investments in long-term care and extended care in the north and the need for communities to start talking about supports for aging in place.
That this whole situation is really pulled back the cover on, I think, important topics that communities, especially communities that want to be inclusive, and a community that is going to be kind to its elders and seniors, need to start asking, okay, do we need to have other supports in a community?
There are currently only 20 long-term care beds at Sioux Lookout's Minayawan Health Center. A 76-bed extension was first approved under the previous Liberal government, but construction has yet to begin. A request for comment was sent to the Ministry of Long-Term Care, who did not reply before deadline. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Summit Church was packed for Grace Place's 9th annual Coldest Night of the Year Walk fundraiser. The walk is not only a fundraiser for the organization, but it also gets attendees to realize what the homeless population has to deal with daily. Just over 300 walkers came out to walk 2 or 5 kilometers to help raise money for a good cause. The fundraising goal for the 9th walk was $90,000, and at the start of the event, $81,000 was already raised. The event is Grace Place's largest fundraiser, and this year's funds will be going towards operating expenses, including utility and heating bills. Event director Gary Maximchuk says they're overwhelmed by the support from the walkers, the 61 volunteers, and the community.
It's wonderful to see all the people that have gone on board. This year our lead sponsor was Perhol Construction, and this is the second year they've been participating. We have a number of businesses that are supporting us, but it's great to see these walkers, 300 plus walkers, raising funds for Grace Place. It's really nice to see.
If all goes according to plan, the Township of Nipigon will have a new strategic plan within the year. Council voted this week to move ahead with the first steps in the process. Before beginning consultation for the new strategic plan, the township will submit a funding application to FedNor. Mayor Suzanne Kuko says that more than a decade since the last plan was created, she is optimistic the application will be successful. Kuko says economic and community development will be her key priorities.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We want to really get to work on a roadmap for our town and have some ideas from townspeople as well to find out, what their interests are and what their priorities might be, and match them up together with ours, and it's going to be great.
Kuko says she appreciates that council and staff are supportive of the initiative. The strategic plan is a priority for the mayor, who made it a major pillar of her campaign platform, promising to bring change to Nipigon Town Hall. Hundreds of people came out to the Sealy Heritage Building for the last day of Science North's annual Science Festival. Today's event was the much-anticipated Science Carnival, which gave children, teens, and adults the opportunity to celebrate science in a fun and interactive way. From science experiments to live bugs, there was lots to see and do at this year's carnival. Along with Science North, over 22 businesses and organizations came out to show attendees the science of what they do, including Fort William Historical Park, Eco Superior, and the Thunder Bay Public Library. The hands-on activities were enjoyed by people of all ages, and Thunder Bay Science North Senior Outreach Manager Caitlin Richard says they love bringing the community together with science.
This is the kind of final event of our entire week of Science Festival activities, and for us, this is kind of the big celebration. We're bringing in community to show off what they do, but also get the community members to learn about what we do here in Thunder Bay, because there's lots of really awesome science, and you never know, we might spark the next scientist that visit here.
More information about Science North upcoming event can be found on their website. And after the break, we'll be joined by sports anchor Kurt Black. He'll have all the details on the sports for today, including an update on Game 2 of the Thunderwolves. Welcome back, and we're now joined by sports anchor Kurt Black. Now we head to the Thunderwolves. As for their first series, they were hoping for a sweep, but last night didn't go exactly as planned.
Yeah, no, I didn't have the broom with me,
No, not the broom.
Yeah, it's after a 5-3 victory Wednesday to open the series in Toronto. The Lakehead Thunderwolves were back home last night for Game 2, staring down a golden opportunity to win their first playoff round in 8 years. Unfortunately, though, for the sold-out crowd in attendance, the Blues, well, they had other plans.
Not a free seat in the house Friday night, as for the first time in 4,731 days, Fort William Gardens was sold out for Game 2 between the Thunderwolves and Varsity Blues. After getting the night off in Game 1, Thunder Bay's Christian Chichigoy between the pipes for Lakehead, while at the other end, it was Jet Alexander making a second straight start after allowing 5 goals on Wednesday. And the T-Wolves would nearly bring that total to 6 in the first, but Keegan Gary cannot finish off the pretty passing play as we would be scoreless after 1. But after LU, Spencer Blackwell drew a crowd after taking the feet out from under Alexander, the T-Wolves would head to the power play, where Griffin Fox would bring the sellout crowd out of their seats, spotting Greg Smith backdoor to open the scoring. It's 1-0 Wolves. But then less than a minute later, Lakehead would head to the penalty kill, thanks to a questionable decision from Jeff Dempster, to say the least. And U of T would make the T-Wolves pay, as Owen Robinson's shot from the slot beats Chichigoy, bringing us back even heading to the third. And the Blues would stay hot out of the break, as Ross Krieger would give them their first lead of the night off a perfect shot into the top right corner, making it 2-1. But the T-Wolves were not going away, and with 6 minutes left to play, they would pull things even thanks to an unlikely source. That right there was Noah Massey's first goal all season long, and boy was it a beauty, blowing the roof off the old barn, and just like that, we're heading to overtime, where this back and forth affair would, unfortunately for Thunderwolves fans, tip back in the Blues' favor. As with just 2 minutes left in overtime, Krieger will keep Toronto's season alive, jamming home his second of the night past Christian Chichigoy, sending us to an all-deciding Game 3 Saturday night back at Fort William Gardens.
These are the type of games you want to be in at the beginning of the year. You want to be in these positions at home. Obviously a great crowd, exciting game. I thought it was pretty tight out there, but give them credit. They were the better team tonight, especially in overtime.
Yeah, I think they were just a little bit more desperate than we were. Their backs were against the wall. It was a must-win game for them, and I think it showed a little bit out there. We didn't want it enough, I think, and that was kind of the deciding factor. We played well, but just not good enough.
Shifting now to the Pebbled Ice, despite arriving in Kamloops as the 14th seeded rink, Team Northern Ontario has been one of the most consistent teams at this year's Scotties. And tonight, the McCarville rink will look to secure their spot in tomorrow's final when they face off with Jennifer Jones and Team Manitoba at 9. Here's Krista following last night's victory on why this year may finally be their year.
Yeah, of course.
What sort of advantages do you think that your team has that maybe others don't to get to this point?
I think we practice more. I honestly, because we don't spiel as much, and even though Kendra's not in town, the 3 of us with Rick, 4 of us, we practice a ton, and we fly Kendra in every now and then to practice for a whole weekend, and yeah, we don't travel tons, but we practice a lot.
And I mean, you're also a lineup that hasn't changed a lot. I mean, when we look at some of the big teams, they've tinkered, they've changed. Yeah. Yours and Einerson's came here pretty well unchanged. Does that make a difference?
I think it does. I mean, this is our 8th year together too, so we know each other. We know how we throw. We know on ice, off ice. I think we know each other so well that I think that helps. And honestly, we're super good friends, and I think that's really important too, because you're spending a long time with them and rooming with them, and I think that's important to not get on each other's nerves, because it can, come out on the ice too. So I think that's important.
Now the loser of tonight's match will face the 3-time defending champions Team Canada at 3 p.m. tomorrow in the semifinals. Meantime, closer to home, after a dominating 70-point victory last night in Game 1 of the Nawassa Boys Basketball Championship, the St. Ignatius Falcons were back out on the court this morning looking to punch their ticket to provincials.
As a wise man once said, nothing good comes from poking a sleeping bear. And Saturday morning, the visiting Beaver Brae Broncos from Kenora found that out the hard way. As after a sluggish first quarter from St. Ignatius saw the Falcons build a modest 17-point lead, Iggy would wake up and then some early in the second after watching leading scorer Jackson Lawrence taken out by a dangerous foul. Thankfully, Lawrence, who had 15 points in the opening frame, would be okay. As for the Broncos, though, well, they had sealed their fate, as the Falcons would go on a monstrous 39-4 run to take a 62-17 lead into the break and would cruise home to the blowout victory, 107-34, securing the sweep and a spot in the provincial championships in just under 2 weeks' time.
No one's been on our team been to OFSA because the COVID, right? So we haven't been there, so we're really excited. Our team has grown so much from our first tournament where we got that little experience because in town, they're still good players, but we win by a good amount, which sometimes is like whatever. But to go down to Hamilton earlier in the season and like help us get a gauge of that competition, it was good, and I think we've improved a lot, so we should have a good chance at OFSA.
Falcons head coach Dino Buzette said the Nowassa series was a great test to get his team ready to move on to the next level, and believes his team has a great shot of being crowned provincial champions.
You never know what's going to happen when you got these 1 or 2 game eliminations, but our guys came out to play today. It was great. We're excited about this group. I don't know what it is about them. They got something special. They work together. They have each other's backs, and I can't wait to get there.
The Falcons will have about 9 days to get ready for the OFSA AA Boys Basketball Championship, which will get going from Timmins on March 6th.
Sticking on the court, the Toronto Raptors have clawed their way back into the NBA playoff picture with a win over the Detroit Pistons.
2.8 to go. Do not foul. Hayes. And it's stolen by Pirtle.
Unlike the game out at St. Ignatius, this one came right down to the final seconds. But the Raptors would be able to squeak out the 95-91 win. The team now has 7 wins in their last 8 and are now just 1 game below 500. Pascal Siakam led all scores with 29. Here's Spicy P post-game.
Also believe that, again, like we had a lot of games that we could have won and we probably could have been in a different spot right now. But this is, the hand that was dealt to us, or at least, not dealt to us, but, we put ourselves in this situation and that happens in life. But I just feel like we just got to continue to stay focused on the task ahead and that's just every single game, literally. And you can't really control a lot of other things.
And they'll be back on the court tomorrow, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Shifting now to the Diamond, we got a clear indicator today that spring is just around the corner. And no, I'm not talking about Wyerton Willie. I'm talking about the return of Blue Jays baseball.
Meanwhile, Vlad Guerrero just lined a bullet over the left center field wall. So impressive.
There's Vladdy Guerrero with his first home run of the spring as the Jays beat the Pittsburgh Pirates to kick off spring training in Florida. The team of course, is looking to build off their 2022 campaign where they did make it to the postseason but were swept in the wild card round. Yusei Kikuchi got the start for the Jays in this one and looked good, going 2 shutout innings with 5 punch-outs. And while we're on the topic of Toronto sports teams, some good news for local hockey fans, maybe some Leafs fans out there. Matt Murray returning to practice today, so he might be back against Edmonton on the 1st, but just to see him back on the ice is fantastic.
Very exciting. He's such a good player. It's just injuries have been holding him down. Hopefully, when he comes back, he stays back.
Fingers crossed.
As for the weather, some moderate temperatures are on the way, but also some snow. We'll have more after the break. Welcome back. Now, Kurt, even though spring training is starting for the Blue Jays, doesn't mean winter's over yet. There's a little bit more snow on the way here in Thunder Bay. Out west, temperatures are a little colder as well. Starting over in Vancouver, they're sitting at 1, seeing plenty of snow throughout the day. That's going to carry over heading into tonight. While farther in Toronto, down to -4, just seeing some cloudy skies in the area. In St. John's and most of the areas out east are a lot colder, -14 in St. John's. Everywhere else seeing colder temperatures as well. Now tonight, it is going to drop down, especially out west in Red Lake at -26 and Fort Frances at -25. A little warmer in Greenstone to Sault Ste. Marie, but they're going to see some flurries heading into tomorrow. Now, Sault Ste. Marie, the only one who's going to be sticking with those flurries at -3. Temperatures around average for highs in Red Lake at -10, -5 in Fort Frances, and -10 in Greenstone, all seeing partly cloudy skies. At this hour, mostly cloudy. The wind from the southwest up to 22 kilometers gusting. -8 for the temperature right now. Tonight, it is dropping down to -18, but the wind chill not being very nice. It's going to feel like -28. Those clouds are starting to clear up. The wind also going to pick up ever so slightly. Now Sunday, temperature is sitting at -7. We're going to see some partly sunny skies, but Monday, like I was saying, we could see a little bit more snow in Thunder Bay. It's going to be on and off, but we could see anywhere from 5 to 10 centimeters. The temperature down to -1. It is going to warm up to 1 on Tuesday, so that is a chance that we're going to see some watery and slushy roads heading out. So fair warning